Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin, alongside my co-host Chris Palma. How are we doing today?
Doing good today, my friend. Doing good. How are we?
Pretty good. I know you're just waking up, so don't worry. We'll liven up the talk with some football talk. Um, but we got we have a good show for you today. We're going to be discussing some games um, heading into week two. There's five games that really interest us. But before we get to that, I know Chris Palmer, there's something that you wanted to say. There's someone you want to give a shout out to.
Yes, I wanted to give a personal shout out to a coworker and personal friend of mine by the name of Steve Ribisi. He is one of the more renowned DJs in this world. His name is DJ Valeno. If you haven't checked him out, dude can kill it on the turntable. He has been one of our biggest fans since the beginning. Shout out to Steve. Good man, good friend. Check him out. He's good. But with that being said, it's time to talk football, and let's get it started.
So, Chris Palmer, let's talk football. Okay. So, the first game that we want to discuss is the Dolphins and Bills. And, CP, I will let you start off first.
All right, well, that one is going to be exciting. You know, we got the Dolphins coming off of a great game. Tua, last week, he went 16 for 27, 202, a TD, and one interception, which I chalked up as just a rookie mistake. I call him a rookie because it's his first season, full season as quarterback. So this, I can more consider his rookie season as the starting quarterback. Tua and Jalen Waddle, definitely a relationship to watch as the season progresses and as his career progresses as well. That defense, I could definitely see having some trouble against Josh Allen because their pass coverage needs a little bit of help. Some more so in the flex area. You know, their deep coverage is okay. Their pass rush needs a little help, but they'll get there throughout the year. Their run defense is more stout than anything, I feel. They had a huge turnover late against the Patriots, which ultimately led them to win, which was their first win since 2013. I think it's going to be exciting to watch through and through.
I agree with that. And I want to give a shout out to our man, Tarvos Trockenshire, who is a diehard Dolphins fan. And I was actually talking with this him earlier today. This game between the Dolphins, Patriots, and the Bills, that division is in a three-way fight where any one of those teams can come out on top. With that being said, this game coming up on Sunday, the Bills against the Dolphins, is a playoff game in week two, and we're going to be very fortunate enough to see it. The defenses, I expect good things from those both defenses. They're both. It's still September. It's still early. Both teams are not going to get a feel for them just yet. As the season goes on, those defenses are really going to start to mold and do what they do best. So I'd like to see it for this weekend. I'd like to see a good defensive battle. I think it's going to be a very low scoring affair. I don't see it being a shootout, but I see it as a very low scoring affair because I was telling our man Travis before that the Dolphins are going to subscribe to the formula of competent quarterback play with minimal turnovers, a solid run game with Gaskin, and a strong defense. And there's a formula to winning in the National Football League with that. And I think the Dolphins are going to be the ones to subscribe to that. But the Bills can beat you different ways. Josh Allen can be slinging it. I expect Devin Singletary to get more touches this game because they didn't really commit to him last week against the Steelers. In fact, Josh Allen threw 51 pass attempts against the Steelers. That's just too much. That really is just too much. I don't expect him to be throwing 51 times against the Dolphins, but if they do, something is wrong. But with that being said, this is a very exciting game to watch. If you're Dolphins, Bills, or Patriots fan, you got to keep your eye on this game because it is a playoff game in week 2.
Yeah, for sure, playoff game. Josh Allen is going to be great. He threw 51 times, but he completed 30 of them for 270 yards and a touchdown. That Josh Allen, people try to underestimate him. He is going to be special in this league. They had a solid defense against Pittsburgh most of that game, but they got gassed in the second half. So I want to see how they come out against Tua and pace themselves. If they don't pace themselves against Tua, he may get turned on quick and he may run all over them. Overall, I feel the Bills are still the better team. That offensive line held T.J. Watt relatively at bay most of that game. So that in itself is a lot. Yeah, he finished with, I think, 8 pass rushes, but that wasn't one after the next. It was sporadic throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
That offensive line is going to be something to watch. I think I'm taking Bills 2013 in that one. It's not going to be a tight game. I mean, it's not going to be a high-scoring game. Sorry.
I don't see it as a high-scoring game either. I'll be honest, I'm still a little iffy on who I want to pick, the Bills or the Dolphins. I need another day or two to think about it. But for everyone watching, last week we did our predictions at the end of our first episode. This week we're actually doing our predictions on a separate video that we're going to be dropping either Friday or Saturday. So that will be a relatively short video on just our picks for this upcoming week. With that being said, one thing I did want to mention with Tua is he is a left-handed quarterback. Now, for people who don't know, my man Chris Palmer here is a lefty too. He's one of those lefty guys, but that does affect gameplay a little bit. With that being said, now Tua, he scored a touchdown against the Patriots where he rolled out to his right side, to his weak side, and committed to that run and pushed it into the end zone, which was very innovative on his part to roll out to his weak side and yet still come away with the score. But when a defense rolls him out to his left side, which is typically not what defenses are used to because 90% of the league is right-handed quarterbacks. And in fact, I can't really think of offhand who else is a left-handed starting quarterback in the league other than Tua. Not off the top of my head. But with that being said, defenses have to adjust to that, being that now the left side of the field for Tua is his strong side. He's still going to be able to make throws to the right, but he's going to favor his left. And I'm interested to see what adjustments the Bills have to make to see if they kind of block off that left side of Tua. But with that being said, it's going to be a very exciting game. I still don't know who to take, but Chris Palmer, do you have any more thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I like the idea of Tua being a lefty. It is very rare.
You're lefty biased.
It doesn't show. There's only 5 of us. We need to stick together. It's okay.
You, Tua, and Ned Flanders, and 2 other people.
Yeah. I looked it up. It doesn't seem like there are any starting left-handed quarterbacks, but it was a brief lookup. I didn't actually go on to anything. It just showed me a list of names and a picture of Tua. And every other name I didn't recognize. So they seem like they would be backups, as it were. Mm-hmm. I do like the way he plays. It's just my question is going to be how that front 7 contains him. Mm-hmm. If they contain him, the Dolphins may struggle. I'm not going to say they will. They may. But if they don't, we could see another outing like we saw with Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. He's that type of athlete.
He really is. He's I think Tua special, and I think we're going to expect good things for the Dolphins this year, so long as he's starting all 17 games. With that being said, Any more thoughts on that game?
No,
Your predict?
for Dolphins fans, Bills fans, you guys are in for a treat this week. You really are going to be in for a treat watching this game.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be a very, very special game to watch. Now, we're going to move on to our second game that we like to discuss, which really captured our eye, is the Vikings and the Cardinals game. With that being said, I'd like to start off with this first. Kyler Murray, what a game he had on Sunday. I think the Cardinals were probably the most surprising team to come out of Week 1. I know Chris Palmer and I, we both picked the Titans to win, and to our chagrin, Kyler Murray just said, "In your mouth." He had 4 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and a pick, but nevertheless, the Cardinals were in complete control. And not only was Kyler Murray sensational, but Chandler Jones on the defensive end, the left outside linebacker, he had a phenomenal game. He was feasting on the Titans' offensive line. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you showed me something where the tackle was humbled by Chandler Jones and actually posted it on social media. Could you imagine just absolutely just destroying
right
someone and then they
media.
and then just get humbled? But with that being said, Chandler Jones and that defense looks rocking. The Cardinals are a very hot team this year, and I would expect, even though they may be the 4th best team in their division, they may be the 4th best team just within that whole NFC. It's really going to depend on how it's going to shake out, but the Cardinals are going to be a very, very hot team to watch this year, so long as Kyler Murray doesn't get injured again. Chris Palmer, what are your thoughts on this game? What are your takeaways?
Well, my bold prediction, man, is that the Cardinals are going to steal that division. The Cardinals played very, very well. Up until that Ravens-Raiders game, I thought this was going to be the upset of the week. Kyler Murray, he is going to have a breakout year this year, I feel. He is special. He is making things happen. He can finally run the ball. If he stays healthy, he's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Chandler Jones, he took the focus of that offensive line, and they just couldn't do anything about it. Something I did notice, though, was they kind of held J.J. Watt dormant throughout that game. He only had 2 tackles for loss come the end. But that offensive line kept Murray well protected. You saw he was able to set his feet on throws. There was a couple of plays where he had to scramble out of the pocket. But for the most part, he was protected. And that's really the main thing here is if you protect your quarterback, he's going to be able to set his feet and throw the ball. If you watched our segment yesterday, I got to talking about how when Zach Wilson was finally able to be protected, he threw a touchdown drive and be productive and act as an athletic quarterback. So that being said, Murray looks very well protected. He's very comfortable in the pocket. If the Vikings let him get comfortable, it's not going to be a pretty game for them either. The one thing that kind of concerns me is their defense in the red zone. They let up touchdowns, not field goals. And that can draw concern come later in the season when they start
talking the Cardinals defense?
Yes, the Cardinals defense. Once they hit they let up touchdowns. They don't seem to really let up field goals. So that's going to be something that I just want to watch throughout the season, how that progresses. Yes, It was week 1. Could have been a little bit of jitters. I want to see that as the season moves on. I also want to see the relationship between Murray and Kirk. That's going to be fun to watch. Very promising.
Christian Kirk is
a very promising number 2. So I think that's going to be exciting.
I think that whole receiving core the Cardinals have is one of the best receiving cores in the league because you have D Hop, you have AJ Green, and you also have Christian Kirk. So that trio right there is more than enough for Kyler Murray to be productive on the field, and it showed. And it showed on Sunday. One thing that does concern me though are the Vikings. Now, I have a soft spot for the Vikings because when I believe Mike Zimmer, I like him as a coach, I really do, and I really like his philosophy of defense first. He really built that team to be a very defensive heavy team, but as the years have gone on, the defense has not been as dominant as it was, and at its apex, the Vikings defense was able to make it to the NFC conference title game where against the Eagles, where they just got absolutely thwomped, and then the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl. But that was probably the height of the Vikings at that point. But since that point, they've lost a lot of defensive pieces that was very integral to their success. With that being said, I don't know what the Vikings' expectations are this year because they're a good team. They're not a bad team, but they're not good enough to compete against the powerhouses within the conference. Maybe within their own division, quite possibly. It's hard to say how Green Bay is, and that whole division went winless on Sunday. Bless you. And I just don't know what the Vikings expect. They're kind of in that middle ground where they're good, but not great, and not bad, but not special. So, with that being said, though, Kirk Cousins did have a hell of a day on Sunday where he was 36 for 49 with 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was pretty good. He was pretty efficient against the Bengals. And Dalvin Cook had 20 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. So they're trying to get that balance on there. But for me personally, they got to feed Dalvin Cook more. He is that talented of a running back. If Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league, Dalvin Cook is number 2, easily. And it's also going to be another interesting game. It's going to actually be a big game for a new defensive piece for the Vikings in Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson was a longtime Cardinals cornerback, and this past offseason, he is now a Minnesota Viking. So this is going to be, I guess, his return to Arizona. And this is going to be a very, very interesting game. I think the Cardinals are going to win this game. Although I do like the Vikings, and I do like a lot of players that are still on the Vikings that are still on that defense, even though it's not what it was. The Cardinals just look like the better team all around, offense and defense, and it's going to be it might be a thrashing, but we'll see. We'll see come Sunday.
Yeah, definitely another exciting matchup. This one, more so because of what the Vikings did. I did not expect Kirk Cousins to play the way he did. 351 yards, 2 TDs, and no picks. That was a very impressive outing by Kirk Cousins. I did not expect that. I actually told one of my friends to take him out from starting and put Matt Ryan in because he was playing the Eagles. And then we all saw how that happened. He did not let me live that one down.
No, as he should.
But, they had a great game, but their pass protection is not up there. Kirk Cousins made things happen that we haven't seen him make. He made plays that we haven't seen him make in years. So he really played out. Their run blocking is incredible, especially with Dalvin Cook in the backfield. I agree with you, is one of the more elite backs in the league. He gets the ball, he can make things happen. He can make magic happen if given just a little bit of a seam. He gets half a step in front of that defense, and he can turn a 5-yard loss into a 20-yard gain, and he did it a
Mm-hmm.
couple of times last game. If you guys go back and watch the highlights, I saw some issues in their deep coverage. Hopefully, Patrick Peterson kind of helps with their mid to deep step back. This will be an interesting game coming back to play the Cardinals after being released and picked up by the Vikings. Harrison Smith returning for yet another season. He is that veteran on that defense.
He's one of my favorite players. Yeah.
One of my favorite players as well. Very physical. He's kind of like he's the personification of what that defense is. It's just nasty, fast, physical, and not afraid to get after it. I want to see how he does this game. I want to see where they put him if he winds up in the right spots to make plays happen on that defense. Cousins to Thielen is another solid duo that returns, and they have a very impressive 2-minute drill. They had a very impressive 2-minute drill last week. I want to see if that returns this week. I'm with you. I have Arizona going over this team. But it's going to be a potentially another barn burner. And with how Cousins played, there is potential for another upset.
If Kirk Cousins plays the way he did on Sunday, then it's going to be a very tough outing for the Arizona Cardinals. Another person to look out for in that game is Justin Jefferson. He's the second-year wide receiver who I believe broke the rookie record for receiving yards last year, and he's a stud. So if anyone plays fantasy, I would take any wide receiver in that game: Thielen, Jefferson, D-Hop, AJ Green, or Christian Kirk. I don't play fantasy, but that's just my recommendation. I think it's going to be one of those games where the wide receivers are just going to feast. Chris Palmer, do you have any final thoughts on that game?
No, I think that's going to be another very exciting game. Cardinals fans, be sure to watch, especially Vikings fans. If you guys were impressed last week, this is going to be another impressive outing. I don't know that they're going to win, but it will be impressive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, with that being said, let's move on to our third game that we had our eye on, and that is going to be the Rams versus the Colts. Chris Palmer, I will let you start off with this. I'll let you take it first.
Yeah, I'll start with this one, and I'm going to start with the Colts. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. Like I said in our half-hour video yesterday, I don't buy into Carson Wentz. I don't think he is... I think he's a subpar quarterback, honestly. You look at his stat sheet, and it's smoke and mirrors. He went 25 for 38, 251 yards and a TD. But most of those yards happened in garbage time after Seattle was already up by so much it didn't matter. They weren't going to mount a comeback. I believe the score was like 28-7 at one point, and that's when he started throwing yards. So you saw the Seattle defense really took their foot off the pedal because they saw it was too little too late for them. And that was early second half. So for a team to take the foot off the gas at early second half and start counting you out, I'm not buying into him. I don't think he's going to bring the Colts very far. That offensive line is still very strong. I'm happy that the Colts learned from their mistake with Andrew Luck that they need to build their offensive line first.
Oh, man.
A player to watch, Zach Pascal. He is going to be cool to watch.
What position is he?
Just 1 second. Wide receiver for the Colts.
Okay.
Believe that he was their draft pick this year. No, I don't believe he was. But Zach Pascal, he is going to be impressive to watch. I would like to see him with a more stout quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
to me, again, Wentz just has no it factor. He's just kind of there. He's one of those quarterbacks where you can just turn the shoulder, and whether he played good or bad, it's okay. Carson Wentz was there. He'll never make a ripple big enough to become part of the elite conversation. So that's my thoughts on the Rams. On the Colts. Sorry.
It's I know you and I differ on Carson Wentz. I know I like Carson Wentz a little bit more than you do, but I like that team that the Colts have a lot. They have a very, very strong team on the offensive side. They have a very strong offensive line as well as a strong defense. And again, I'm gonna give another shout out to Darius Leonard because people sleep on him, and he's an absolute beast. But with that being said, the formula for the Colts to win is simple. On offense, you have to be able to block Aaron Donald. That's it. Block Aaron Donald. It sounds easy, but it's not. It is far from easy because Aaron Donald is a historic pass rusher, and he is going to get after it. And not just him, but the rest of the people on that line, they're going to get after it. I think when it comes to that Rams defense, I think the Rams had the number one defense last year, if I'm not mistaken. And with that being said, they're probably going to pick up right where they left off. Even though they lost a couple defensive pieces, I know in John Johnson, who's now in Cleveland, but they still have Jalen Ramsey, they still have Aaron Donald, they still have a really good core there. I don't think anyone can match up on Jalen Ramsey. He's still a really good cornerback. But for the Colts, you have to stop Aaron Donald. Can they stop Aaron Donald? I don't think so. But with the Rams, though, I want to flip it to the Rams offense against that Colts defense, though. Matt Stafford is going to have a very tough time. It's going to be a little bit more difficult than that Bears defense. That Bears defense is good, but being that they have a lack of offense, their defense has to be on the field more to make up for that. But the Colts, they're more balanced in that sense. So they're going to get a lot of zone coverages. They're going to get a lot of different looks, but it's going to be a really good litmus test for Matt Stafford to see how well does he do against the good defenses. And if he can go up against some really nice defenses that are not afraid to get after the quarterback, he was able to show that week 1. Can he do that again week 2? And I believe so too. And I think the Rams are probably going to win this game, but it's not going to be as easy as it was against the Bears.
No, I agree with that. It will not be as easy as it was against the Bears. He had a very impressive outing against the Bears. You and I have spoke about this throughout the years. We both have a soft spot for Matt Stafford. Dude's a tough son of a bitch. There's no way to put it. He may be one of the toughest people to touch the field every week. Yeah, that run defense fell off a little bit, losing a couple pieces, but that edge rush is still
nasty.
Lethal.
It's so nasty.
That edge rush is lethal. And it's going to be a test to the Colts offensive line to keep that edge rush at bay. If they give that edge rush time, I like to see Stafford and Kupp. That's going to be a very interesting duo throughout this season. There's some excitement there. Kupp is a chippy little wide receiver. Stafford is a tough quarterback. He's going to be able to put him in positions to catch the ball and catch the ball really well and potentially run up the field. This one, I'm at a loss as to who I can put over the top. Even though the Colts are unimpressive to me, as with Carson Wentz, that team, I'm going to give a shout out to Darius Leonard as well. He's solid on defense. That offensive line is strong. It's just Wentz that I'm not a fan of. That one is in the air for me. I don't know. I don't have a pick for that just yet.
Understandable. It's going to be a lot tighter of a game, a lot more physical of a game, but it's still a very good game to watch, and I'm really excited for that one as well. Do you have any final thoughts on that game that you'd like to say?
No, just keep an eye out for Cooper Kupp, because if he gets his separation, he is going to have a really good game.
Also, I also forgot that Djax is on the Rams now, so he has Deshaun Jackson. So it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup to see who Jalen Ramsey lines up on, whether he lines up on Cooper Kupp, whether he lines up on Djax. It's going to be a very interesting game, and I'm excited. So, Nick Bates, you better be wearing your Rams jersey because you got to represent. But I would like to move on to the fourth game that we'd like to talk about, and that is going. It looks like a primetime game, but it's not. It's not the primetime game, but it's the Titans and the Seahawks. That's a very interesting matchup, and against two division winners from the previous season. But before I get into it, Chris Palmer, I have to ask you: does Derrick Henry go off on Seattle, or does Seattle contain Derrick Henry?
You see, that's the thing. With how good Derrick Henry is, and how, I'm going to say, for lack of a better term, unpredictable Ryan Tannehill is. You can't predict which Ryan Tannehill is going to come into the game. Is it going to be the one that can produce points and produce yards, because that can happen, or is it going to be the one that comes out and throws sub 100, a little over 100 yards, minimal TDs, and sketchy throws? If that Ryan Tannehill comes out, the Seahawks are going to run all over them. Point, because it's going to make that team one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
There's a process to beating the Titans, and if any team picks up on it early, you and I were speaking about this off air, there's really nothing they can do, because then they have to fall back on Tannehill, and then he doesn't shine under pressure. He needs to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry coming off of, for lack of a better word, terrible game. I think his longest run was from like 30 some odd yards, and that came in the second half. Again, It kind of came in garbage time. I want to see how the Titans respond. Are they going to take that punch to the face from Arizona and, come in nasty, like we know that they are? They are a nasty team when they get hot. That was going to be interesting to watch on their end.
It's going to be a very, very interesting game, and I know we've been saying that at all the games, but these are the games that we've picked because there's something to them that we just want to discuss and we just want to dissect it. But as for the Titans, I know for those of you who don't know us too well, but I know Chris Palmer, he's a huge Derrick Henry fan. Again, he in our previous segment, he said that he watched Derrick Henry in college and predicted even before he came to the NFL, like, that kid is special. And you were right. You were absolutely ahead of the curve on that one, so I got to give you a lot of props to that. With that being said, though, this is the test for Seattle's defense, because Seattle last year in the first half of the season, they couldn't get their pass rush going. They had a good secondary and good coverage, but their pass rush just wasn't there. With that being said, when the Ravens played the Titans in that wild card game, they kept Derrick Henry. They had a formula for Derrick Henry, and that was stopping him at the line of scrimmage, right at the point of attack. And so, can Seattle stop Derrick Henry at the line of scrimmage at the point of attack? Because if they played this time last year, he would have ran all over them because they would have had no way to stop him. But this is a very good test for Seattle because You have some good linebacker. You have a really good defense. You have a solid defense. You still have Bobby Wagner, who's one of my favorite linebackers in the league. Derrick Henry only had 17 carries for 58 yards and averaged 3.4 yards a clip. Now,
Okay.
17 carries. The reason being is because Arizona got on such a hot lead that at a certain point the Titans had to abandon the run game. And with that being
Right.
said, you can't rely on your best player if you're playing from behind, where you can't run the ball in that scenario. You're down 3 touchdowns. You can't necessarily run back into the game. As good as Derrick Henry is,
No.
but Mike Vrabel was like, no. But Ryan Tannehill, he was 21 for 35 with 212 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He's good, but he's not good enough to come back from such a deficit like that. I also do not trust that Tennessee defense, and I think Russell Wilson is going to absolutely carve them up. Russell Wilson did a lot against the Colts. He actually had less pass attempts than Carson Wentz last week, but yet he was still the better quarterback. He went 18 for 23, 254 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Just incredible. He completely controlled the game by doing more with less. Chris Carson also had a really good game for Seattle. He had 16 carries for 91 yards. And that was good. It was good for Seattle because they controlled the pace of the game. They played how they wanted to play. And if Seattle gets up on an early lead on Tennessee, it's going to be very hard for Tennessee to come back and very hard for Tennessee to commit to that run game with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I agree for sure. The Seahawks, they outmatched the Colts in week 1, and to me, it kind of holds true here too. The Seahawks are just an absolute outmatch. Titans are outmatched by the Seahawks in just about every way. That defense seems to have showed up like they showed up the back end for them last season. I'm talking the Seahawks defense.
Mm-hmm.
Defense for the Seahawks seems to have showed up like they showed up the back end of last season. So I feel that would be an overall improvement because they're coming out of the gate pretty quick. They're coming out and they can stop one of the best running backs in the league from having any sort of productivity throughout an entirety of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have the Seahawks going over this one. I don't have a score for you, but
yeah, I don't do scores. I just pick them.
If the Seahawks get a lead, it's not going to be pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's going to be another physical game, and that's going to be in Seattle too, with fans, with the 12th man. So that's going to be very, very hard for the Titans. It's good. Their backs are going to be to the wall, and they may come out of this week 0-2, even though that they're pretty much favored to win that division. Being 0-2 is not pretty for any team who wants to compete.
No, that's an ugly look to. It's an ugly look to have.
Yeah, but with that being said, is there anything? Do you have any other thoughts on this game? Do you think? Well, let me ask you this, Chris Paul. Actually, it just came into my head. Do you think Julio Jones is going to be the X factor in that game?
No.
No?
Listen, you know me. I like Julio Jones. I'm not in love with him. You have a softer spot for Julio Jones than I do. Reason being, look at him without Matt Ryan. He has a Ryan Tannehill throwing to him.
Mm-hmm.
And when everyone started turning towards Julio Jones, people got to remember they also had Mohamed Sanu on that team. So he wasn't the focal point when it comes to that receiving corps.
Mm-hmm. Titans also have A.J. Brown as well.
They have A.J. Brown. He's their number one. He he is going to be a difference maker in this game if he gets separation. I like A.J. Brown over Julio Jones. I'm pretty sure you're vice versa on that one. I love A.J. Brown. I love everything he's about. I'm sold on him that he's their franchise receiver. If he gets separation, he's going to have an insane game if Tannehill shows up to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's the unpredictability of Ryan Tannehill that has me with them falling short. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill as a competent enough quarterback to stand with Russell Wilson.
See, I like Tannehill, but I even liked him when he first came into the league with the Dolphins. But if we're going quarterback against quarterback, obviously Russell Wilson just takes the cake on that one, because Russell Wilson is he's just going to do Russell Wilson things.
For sure.
He's just going to do Russell Wilson things. But do you have any final thoughts on this game?
No. Again, one of the stretches of games that are going to be exciting. Week 2 has a lot of real tough games.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd like to move on to the last game that we're going to talk about, which is going to be the Chiefs going to Baltimore to play against the Ravens. Now, I want to start with this. I want to speak to the Ravens flock.
You go ahead.
As a Ravens fan, to the Ravens flock, I want to say this. If I know we as a fandom believe that Lamar and the Ravens can go to the Super Bowl, and I still believe we can. But if they can't beat the Chiefs, we're not going to the Super Bowl. That's plain as day. We have to beat the Chiefs at some point in order to get to the Super Bowl. In order to get to where we want to be, we have to do it. That being said, Lamar has not beaten the Chiefs in his NFL career. He is 0-3 against the Chiefs. He has just struggled against them. The first 2 games, not so much, but the last year on a Monday night, he was awful. He was absolutely awful. It's going to be a really good game, but I'll be honest, I don't see the Ravens coming out on top. And as much as, and I hope I'm wrong, and I really hope I'm wrong, but the way the Ravens looked on Monday, it scared me, because after our first episode of Let's Talk Football, I believe the very next day, Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters got injured. And that was big. That was huge. Especially Marcus Peters in the secondary. And for how the Ravens like to go and like to be on defense, they like to blitz a lot. You saw that on Monday. They liked a lot of zero blitz. And Palmer, you know me. You know I'm not a fan of zero blitz. You know I like to have that safety coverage in the back there. But Wink Martindale, he committed to a lot of zero blitz, and you can do that when you have Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. But being that you don't have Marcus Peters anymore, and you don't have Jimmy Smith anymore, you just have Marlon Humphrey as your star-studded cornerback, it's going to be tough, because Marlon is probably going to be on Tyreek Hill. And I want to know who's going to line up on Travis Kelce. You have Marlon on Tyreek Hill. Do you have Patrick Queen? Do you have a linebacker on Travis Kelce? That's what I want. I'm looking for specific matchups. For the Ravens specifically, I love to look at specific matchups, and I just don't like the way the Ravens match up to the Chiefs. And I was even saying it. I had a couple people over my place on Monday to watch the Raiders game. And I was telling them, as the game was going on in real time, I said, we may win this game. We didn't. But I don't like the way we look, and I just do not feel confident with the Ravens going against the Chiefs. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Lamar hears me and just says, "Screw that guy! I'm just gonna just prove him wrong. I'm gonna prove everyone wrong," and I hope he does. But it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be very, very tough outing for the Ravens. With that being said, Palmer, what are your thoughts on this game? I got more, but I want to know your thoughts.
See, I'm just gonna have to stick my thumb in that wound for a minute.
I know.
That upset, man.
Give it to the Ravens. They played
loss.
one hell of a game. They played a hell of a game. They played a hell of a game against the Ravens.
Yes. But interesting enough, Ravens are still given a 58% chance, a 55% chance to win that game this week. So they're still kind of the favorite team to win. I don't necessarily see it. If they send the house like they sent on Derrick Henry when it comes to their blitzes, it's going to be gross. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback under pressure, and it's not even close. You can't even debate it.
I'm not, because he just
you send someone that you shouldn't, he's going to read it, and he's going to get that ball to exactly where that player is supposed to be in coverage, and he's going to burn you big. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about the Ravens. I'm talking about across the board. If you send the wrong man and Patrick Mahomes finds out, you're in trouble.
You're toast at that point. You're toast.
You're just in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I want to see how, on both sides, I want to see how the offensive line controls that defense. How will they be able to contain Lamar from doing Lamar things? You know, everyone knows Lamar can make a play. And as he's growing into his career, he's not doing as many unorthodox things. I would like to see him learn how to tuck the ball, but I don't know that he'll learn how to do that. It's scary the way he runs the ball, but we're not going to go down that road. And I also want to see how that Ravens defense does choose to get after Patrick Mahomes. You know, I'm sure the defensive coordinator will not be afraid to get after it and send blitzes as a package. But if that becomes their focal point, they're not going to win this game.
Wake Martindale is the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, but we also do have Rob Ryan on our staff as well, if I'm not mistaken. With that being said, you're absolutely right. If Patrick Mahomes can pick up a blitz, then he's just going to find the open man, point blank. And it was shown time and time again last year when the Ravens played the Chiefs, when the Ravens sent a lot of people. They sent a lot of pressure. I believe they blitzed. I think it was like 48% of the snaps or 45% of the snaps against Patrick Mahomes, and they were sending the heat against him. But
that's not what you do against Mahomes.
He just read it, and he just found the open man. It'd be like, whoop, Kelsey, whoop, Mecole Hardman, whoop, Tyreek, and he makes it look easy. And it's so hard, especially for the Ravens that were down Marcus Peters. That's big. That's really big, because at least if you have Tyreek and Mecole Hardman and then Travis Kelsey, you got to put your stars on your stars, and you got to find the right matchup. And if Marlon is, say, on Tyreek, and you have Patrick Queen on Travis Kelsey, it leaves Mecole Hardman very wide open there. I know there's a lot of. We also should not sleep on the Chiefs' running game as well, because we may be expecting them to be flinging the ball, and they probably will, but there are going to be times where they're going to be running the ball, and it might throw the Ravens for a loop. I'm very concerned for that defense. I like our pass rush, and I really liked Odafe Owe in our debut game, number 99 on the Ravens. So if you're watching that game, that's the primetime game on this coming Sunday. So please look out for number 99. He's a rookie. He is ferocious. He's going to get right after it against Patrick Mahomes. Calais Campbell is he's very solid, but he's not what he was. So I don't expect much from Calais, but I do expect that defense as a solid unit to play well. But the thing is, though, to beat the Chiefs, you have to put up points. You got to put up about 30, at least 30, to beat the Chiefs, and you
have to hold off 30 as well. Let's not stop that.
You have to hold off 30. Although Tampa did really expose their weakness at the time in the Super Bowl, where they just played mostly cover 2 defense against Patrick Mahomes, where it's basically you send 4 people against that offensive line to go get after Patrick Mahomes, and then everyone else plays in zone coverage. And although that did work for Tampa, I think if the Ravens even try it, I don't think it's going to work, because the Chiefs have a fresh offensive line that looked pretty good. That looked pretty good on Sunday against the Browns, and is only going to get better as the season goes on and the more continuity they get.
Yeah, but I agree. This one is going to be interesting to watch, to say the least.
This is the primetime game that it should be a playoff game, although Mahomes and Jackson have never met in the playoffs. This is one of those games where if the Ravens want to show that they are Super Bowl bound, we have to beat the Chiefs. And it's going to be very, very hard to do so. There's a lot of things to look for in that game. There's a lot of things I'll be looking for in that game, looking for individual matchups, looking for specific schemes on both defenses, and specifically the play calling for Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, because Andy Reid is he's one of the best coaches in the league. He's just hands down one of the best play callers in the league as well. And it's just going to be so hard to go up against that. He's lethal in September. And I believe when we played against the Chiefs last year, it was week 3. So it was still September, and we got absolutely smoked, and not in the good way. But it's Ravens flock. I'm praying that we win, but my confidence and my brain says all the signs point to probably not. And I just did not like the way we looked on Monday. Although there were times we looked good, but there were times we just looked bad. We just looked really, really bad. And I don't blame. It doesn't break my heart that Lamar fumbled twice, because at the end of the day, you got to give the football to your playmakers, and Lamar is a playmaker, and I don't feel bad for that. But what do you think, Chris Paul? Do you think the Ravens have a chance? And if so, what are the keys to their success in order to beat the Chiefs?
If the Ravens, because it is very possible, my motto when it comes to football games, any given Sunday, it can just happen. Mm-hmm. It showed true with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly, man. Any given Sunday, it can just happen. They showed up, Falcons didn't. The rest is history. Anything can happen between now and Sunday night. So, but if everything stays the same from now to Sunday and the Ravens come out, they need to really establish that defense, and they need to slow Patrick Mahomes down.
Mm-hmm.
If you get him in his head and having to make him go audibles, hot routes, change his mind on plays, you get him confused, that's what you need to do. You need to break him mentally. If he locks in mentally, there will be nothing you guys can do, and it's unfortunate. You watch Patrick Mahomes get into that mode where he has a defense completely found out by the end of the first quarter, which happens regularly, especially in September. He does not fool around in September. It helps with Andy Reid. So that does not help your guys' case playing them again. This has the workings to be a playoff game caliber. Will it be? That remains to be seen for the Ravens and their defense and how it's coached and how they go about trying to contain Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Could be potentially one of the best games of the week, but it could also potentially be a fucking blowout if they don't do their thing on the Ravens.
Yeah. When Lamar presses, it is ugly. It's a very ugly game to watch. And last year on that Monday night, it was a very hard game to watch with very few highlights that benefited the Ravens. I know the line on this game, I believe, is about 3 points. So Vegas and the odds makers think that it's going to be a pretty close game. I hope it is going to be a close game, but we shall see. We shall see. With that being said, we're going to actually talk about the Thursday night game briefly, and then we're going to actually pick our Thursday night game because this video should air and drop Thursday before the game. So Thursday night game is the Giants against Washington. So, Chris Palmer, who is going to win that game?
Washington is going to roll all over that team. That defense is on a different level than that offensive line. That offensive line is abysmal. The Giants are really unexciting at best. I tried to give Daniel Jones the benefit of the doubt in the offseason, saying this has to be his year. This is the year where everyone's going to start saying, is he the problem? Because now he has all of his pieces back. Barkley isn't hurt. What's going on? He is scared. He is jittery. His form is crap. He can't throw the ball. He can't run the ball. Like, what are you doing, Daniel Jones? Giants fans, I am now on your side that he is not the guy. The showing that he put out in week 1, it was painful to watch. He is painful. And I really tried for a couple of years to really give him benefit of the doubt that he just needs the guys to be healthy, this, that, the third. He had a full arsenal. There's no excuse. He's unexciting. The offensive line was very little help throughout that entirety of the game for the Giants. Barkley was a non-product because of it. You know, that Washington defense is unbelievably young. They are unbelievably special. Chase Young is a great front man. Ron Rivera, shout out Ron Rivera again. His defensive scheme is something that we haven't seen in decades. Mm-hmm. Tough, nasty. You see them, they run a lot of 46 bear. They run a lot of big dime. They also run not a lot of nickel, but they run a lot of blitz-happy packages where they're sending blitzes, and they're sending hidden blitzes. You're seeing players that are coming up, and they're creeping, and they're going untouched. They go untouched, and they get to the backfield. Mm-hmm. Very not so common anymore in this league where you have an untouched linebacker getting all day to go rip your quarterback's head off. And I think that's what we're going to see all game on the Giants' offensive end. They don't have an answer for Chase Young. They don't have an answer for that middle linebacking core, and they cannot throw the ball, so that secondary is going to have fun. Mm-hmm. Washington fans, get ready. You guys have a very promising young team ahead of you with an insanely defensive-minded coach that's going to change the entire dynamic of Washington.
Mm-hmm. So you're picking Washington to win that game?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. I'm actually with you on that. I was kind of flipping in my mind Washington or the Giants. Sorry, Dad, but I'm taking Washington to win that game. That for all the reasons that you said. That defense is ferocious, and they're going to get after Daniel Jones, even with that healthy offense. Their offensive line is horrible. It's horrendous. And Ron Rivera, I think, is the more competent coach. Shout out to Ron Rivera, and congrats to beating cancer last year. He's one of our favorite coaches that we really like to watch, and we really hope that he's very successful. With that being said, I'm taking Washington to win on Thursday over the Giants. I don't know the score, but it's going to be physical, and you're going to see some loud hits. That's probably the best prediction I could ever give you.
One thing I want all football fans to remember is an image from last season as to who Ron Rivera is. That man was going through chemotherapy during the season, and there was one shot in particular during that year where he is standing, leaning on a coach. I don't remember who it was. I think it was one of their coordinators. And he's being stuck with an IV bag on the sideline while standing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If that is a testament to how tough that man is, and he's going to emulate that toughness into the Washington defense and the team as a whole. The team picks up on that this game is more important than my physical health, which shouldn't be. But that's just the way he sees the game. And he still wound up coming out on top of cancer. Toughest coach. The guys will definitely wrap around that. This season is going to be very special for Washington.
It's going to be a fascinating season for Washington, especially now with the absence of Ryan Fitzpatrick being injured, and we hope for a speedy recovery for Fitz, because we like him as a player. He's a very good player. With all that being said, we're taking Washington to win on Thursday against the Giants. Now, Chris Wilma, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to say before we sign off?
Nope. Here we come. Week 2 is here, guys. Enjoy it. Sit down, get your snacks, and be ready. This is going to be a good one. Okay, boys. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us for Let's Talk Football. We're in for a very exciting week 2. We hope that you join us for next week on our next episode of Let's Talk Football. Make sure to join us on Friday or Saturday for our predictions for this upcoming week, and we will see you next week. Have a good one. Thank you, guys. I'm frozen.